"You're a nice guy, Bruce, but let's be real, you can't afford me." That's exactly what she said. Not in private, not in a text. Lisa stood up at the head of the table, tapping a silver spoon against her champagne flute until the entire patio went silent. 20 people, her family, her friends, her father's business partners, stopped talking. The ocean breeze was rattling the umbrellas at this rented Hamptons estate, but it felt like all the air had been sucked out of the zip code. She looked at me, then looked at her father, Carl, who was swirling his scotch with a look of pure, unadulterated smugness. "I think we've all been polite long enough," Lisa announced, her voice steady, practiced. She smoothed the front of her white silk dress. "Bruce, us, it's just not realistic anymore. Look around. This is the life I'm building. And you're sweet. You really are. But you're dragging me down to a tax bracket I have no intention of visiting." Her cousin snickered. Actually snickered. A harsh, wet sound that cut through the silence. I sat there, gripping my fork, feeling the heat rise up my neck. It wasn't just the rejection, it was the ambush. We had been here for 4 days. 4 days of her family treating me like the help, making cracks about my cute little job, and my vintage, Reed beat-up Ford Explorer. And now, the grand finale. A public execution to prove to Daddy that she was ready to get serious about her future. "Don't look so shocked," she added, tossing her hair back. "You knew this was temporary. You had to know. I need a partner, Bruce, a power player, not someone I'd have to explain the menu to." Carl leaned forward, his face flushed with expensive liquor and arrogance. "She's doing you a favor, son. Cut the dead weight now before you drown trying to keep up. Take the train back to the city. I'll even cover the ticket." He threw a $100 bill onto the tablecloth. It landed right in the butter dish. Greasy, insulting, perfect. That was the moment. The point where a lesser version of me would have flipped the table or cried. Instead, I felt this cold, calm clarity wash over me. It was like the noise of the party faded out, replaced by a low, steady hum in my ears. They thought they were discarding a broke nobody. They had no idea they were spitting in the face of the guy who could buy and sell their entire debt-ridden empire 3 times over before breakfast. I looked at the $100 bill, looked at Lisa, who was already turning away to laugh with her maid of honor, dismissal complete. "You're right," I said. My voice didn't shake. "I don't belong here." I pulled out my phone. 1 text, 5 words. "Extract me, package alpha, now." Then I picked up my drink, downed it, and waited for the rotors. Part 1, the long con. My name is Bruce, I'm 31, and I don't work in logistics support, which is what I've been telling people for 3 years. I founded a proprietary algorithm specifically for high-frequency maritime shipping. We optimize routes for 40% of the global cargo traffic. I sold the majority stake to a conglomerate 2 years ago for $215 million. I kept a board seat and enough equity to keep me on the Forbes list if I let them print my name, which I don't. Money is weird. It ruins things. It rots people from the inside out. I learned that the hard way in my 20s. You walk into a bar wearing a Patek Philippe, and suddenly everyone loves your jokes. You drive a McLaren, and women who wouldn't look at you twice are suddenly soulmates. It's hollow. It's lonely. You never know who is there for you and who is there for the lifestyle. So I went underground. I drive a 2018 Ford with a dent in the bumper. I rent a decent but unassuming apartment in Queens. I wear t-shirts without logos, Fruit of the Loom, mostly. I wanted to see who would stick around for me. Just Bruce, the guy who likes spicy noodles, bad sci-fi movies, and hiking on weekends. Then I met Lisa. We met at a dog park in Brooklyn. She was walking a French bulldog that cost more than my first car. I was walking a mutt I rescued named Buster. She was struggling to open a poop bag. I helped her. We talked. She was funny, sharp, a little pretentious, sure, but I thought maybe that was just a defense mechanism. She worked in PR for a fashion label not high up, but enough to think she was Vogue royalty. We dated for 14 months, and for 14 months, I played the role, the supportive middle-class boyfriend. I paid for dinners, but I checked the prices visibly. I saved up for special dates. I listened to her complain about how expensive Manhattan was. I thought we were happy. I really did. I ignored the red flags because I wanted it to work. There were so many flags, like our 6-month anniversary. I bought her a heartfelt handwritten letter and a vintage locket I found at a flea market. It wasn't expensive, but it was unique. She opened it, looked at it, and said, "Oh, cute." Then she asked if I had kept the receipt, or the time my car broke down on the way to her friend's wedding. She didn't ask if I was okay. She screamed at me for ruining her entrance. "This is why you need a real car, Bruce. It's embarrassing to be seen in this junk heap." I brushed it off. I told myself she was just stressed. I told myself she was ambitious, and that pushed me to be better. I didn't realize she was keeping a scorecard, and I was losing points every single day. Part 2. The Week from Hell. The invite to the Hamptons came 3 weeks ago. Her dad, Carl, was renting this massive estate for his 60th birthday week. A family merger of sorts, lots of networking, lots of old money posturing. "I want you to come," Lisa had said, eyes pleading. "But maybe dress up a bit. Dad is particular." Particular was an understatement. Carl was a mid-tier real estate developer who acted like he built New York himself. He was leveraged to his eyeballs. I knew this because I have friends in finance who laughed when I mentioned his name, but he played the part of the tycoon perfectly. Tuesday, the arrival. The drive up was the first nightmare. Lisa refused to ride in my Ford. "It smells like wet dog, Bruce. We're taking the jitney. It's chic." So we took the bus. When we arrived, the judgment started before I even put my bag down. Carl met us in the driveway. He was wearing linen pants and holding a cigar. He clearly didn't know how to smoke properly. He looked like a caricature of a rich villain from an 80s movie. "So this is the guy," Carl said, not offering a hand. He looked me up and down, staring at my sneakers. "Lisa said you're in shipping." "Logistics," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Back-end support. I make sure things get from A to B." "Computers," Carl sniffed. "IT guy. Got it. Well, try not to bore the guests. We have some heavy hitters coming this weekend. Don't embarrass her." He didn't even tell me where to put my bag. The butler actual staff had to pity me and point me toward the guest cottage. Not the main house. The cottage. It was basically a converted shed near the pool filter. Lisa stayed in the main house. "Daddy wants me close," she claimed. Wednesday. The golf incident. Wednesday was worse. Carl insisted on a golf outing. I don't play golf often, but I know how to swing a club. But I didn't have clubs with me. "No worries," Carl said, grinning like a shark. "You can use the loaners, or just caddy for us. Might be more your speed." I ended up walking the course with them. Carl, his brother Sterling, and a guy named Trent, a hedge fund analyst, who was clearly there to sniff around Lisa. Trent was 28, wore loafers without socks, and talked exclusively about his bonus structure and his CrossFit routine. For 4 hours, I listened to them talk about money. Not the way people with real money talk about it, ideas, projects, the future, but the way insecure people talk about it, prices, brands, who has the bigger boat. "So Bruce," Trent said on the 9th hole, lighting a cigarette, "Lisa says you rent in Queens, rough commute, or do you just like the grit?" "I like the neighborhood," I said. "It's real." "Real," Carl laughed. "That's code for cheap. Look, son, there's no shame in being poor. Just don't drag my daughter down with you. She's got potential. She needs a platform, not an anchor." I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. I wanted to tell him that I could buy this golf course and turn it into a parking lot just to spite him, but I didn't. I needed to see how far they would go. Thursday morning, the invisible man. By Thursday, I was a ghost. Lisa barely spoke to me. She was too busy laughing at Trent's jokes by the pool. I brought her a coffee in the morning, the way she likes it. Oat milk, 2 stevia. She took it without looking at me. "Thanks. Put it on the table. Trent is showing me photos of his trip to Mykonos." I stood there for a minute, waiting for a smile, a touch, anything. "Babe," I asked. "Not now, Bruce," she snapped. "God, you're so needy. Go find something to do." I walked down to the beach alone. I sat on the sand and watched the waves. I pulled out my phone and checked my accounts. The numbers were astronomical, meaningless digits on a screen. I could buy a jet right now. I could fly to Paris for lunch. And yet, I was sitting in the sand, being treated like garbage by a woman I thought loved me. That's when I realized she didn't love me. She tolerated me. She was waiting for an upgrade. And Trent, with his leased BMW and his loud mouth, was the upgrade. I made the decision then. I wasn't going to break up with her. I was going to let her do it. I was going to let her show her true colors to the world. Thursday night, the dinner, which brings us back to the dinner, the white party. Everyone in white. I had to go to a local store and buy a white linen shirt that scratched. I felt like an idiot. We sat down at 8 p.m. The table was set for 20. Lobster, caviar, the works. I was seated at the far end, next to a deaf aunt and a teenager who was scrolling TikTok. Lisa was at the head, next to Carl. Throughout the appetizers, I caught Lisa looking at me, not with love, with annoyance. Like I was a stain on the tablecloth she couldn't scrub out. Then came the speech, the spoon tapping, the silence, the humiliation. "You're not in my league financially." The words echoed in my head as I stood by the railing, the $100 bill still greasy in the butter dish. "How are you going to leave?" Trent laughed, swirling his wine. "Walking to the bus stop?" "Not exactly," I said. I checked my watch. Marcus, my head of security, was efficient. "ETA 2 minutes, I muttered. I walked over to the bar, poured myself a glass of Carl's $500 scotch, which he had explicitly told me not to touch, and leaned against the railing of the deck. "What are you doing?" Carl barked. "Put that down and get out. You're making a scene." "I'm waiting for my ride," I said calmly. "Your Uber?" Lisa rolled her eyes. "Bruce, stop being pathetic. Just go pack your bag." Then they heard it. Thwup, 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 thwup. A low vibration at first, rattling the expensive crystal on the table. Then a roar. The wind picked up, whipping the tablecloths and ruining the carefully coiffed hair of every woman at the table. "What the hell is that?" Carl yelled, covering his drink. A dark shape rose over the dunes. It wasn't just a helicopter. It was a Sikorsky S-76. My Sikorsky, matte black. Custom interior. The kind of machine heads of state use. It had the logo of my holding company, Apex Dynamics, painted in subtle gray on the tail. The pilot brought it in low, hovering just above the estate's massive lawn, kicking up a storm of sand and leaves. The noise was deafening. The white party was now a windblown disaster party. Napkins flew into the pool. A wig might have detached itself from an ant. It was glorious chaos. The side door slid open. Marcus leaned out. He wasn't wearing a chauffeur's uniform. He was wearing a tactical vest and sunglasses, looking like he was extracting a diplomat from a war zone. I finished the scotch. I placed the glass down on the railing with a deliberate clink. "That's my ride," I said. I walked past the table. Everyone was frozen, mouths open. Lisa looked like she'd been slapped with a wet fish. Trent, the hedge fund guy, dropped his fork. He recognized the logo. I saw his eyes widen, the gears turning in his head. "Apex?" he whispered, his face going pale. That's the shipping algo, guys. That's billions." I stopped in front of Lisa. She was staring at the helicopter, then at me, trying to reconcile the loser Bruce with the man who just summoned a $15 million aircraft to a backyard barbecue. "You mentioned I couldn't afford you," I said, leaning in so only she and Carl could hear over the rotors. "Lisa, I spent more on the fuel to get this bird here than your dad made in the last fiscal year. I checked his financials. He's underwater. Tell him to sell the boat." I walked onto the lawn. The downdraft was immense, whipping my cheap linen shirt around. I climbed into the cabin. Leather seats, climate control, a cold beer waiting in the holder. I put on the headset. "Let's go, Marcus." "Rough night, boss?" Marcus asked, grinning. "You have no idea." As we lifted off, I looked down. The entire dinner party had rushed to the edge of the deck. They were filming, phones out. Lisa was standing alone, looking up, looking small. We banked hard over the Atlantic and headed back to the city. Update 1. The fallout. Tambim 2 days later. You would think the helicopter was the end of it. It wasn't. It was the match that lit the dumpster fire. By the time I landed on the helipad in Manhattan, the video was already circulating. Trent, that idiot, had posted it to his story with the caption, "Holy shit, Bruce isn't broke. Bruce is Apex Dynamics." My phone was silent for exactly 12 minutes. Then it exploded. 74 missed calls, 150 texts. The first text from Lisa came in at 10:45 p.m. that night. "Bruce, what was that? Why didn't you tell me? Call me, please, I'm confused. Followed by, baby, we need to talk. I didn't mean what I said. I was just stressed. My dad pressured me. Please answer. And then, the kicker at 2 a.m. I'm coming to the city. I'm waiting outside your apartment. We are going to fix this. She went to my apartment in Queens, the decoy apartment. I wasn't there. I was in my penthouse in Tribeca, watching the city lights and eating pizza with Buster. The real damage, though, was financial. Remember how I told Lisa her dad was underwater? I wasn't bluffing. I had my team run a background check on Carl when the invites went out, just for safety. Carl's development company was leveraged against assets he didn't really own. He was banking on a new partnership with a tech firm to bail him out. Guess who sat on the board of the VC fund backing that tech firm? Me. I made a call on Monday morning. Hey Jim, yeah, it's Bruce. That deal with Carl's group, the Hamptons developer, yeah, look into his liquidity. I think he's misrepresenting his assets. Jim pulled the term sheet by noon. By Tuesday, Carl was frantic. He called me from 3 different numbers. Bruce, buddy. Listen, we got off on the wrong foot. I was drunk. It was a joke. A test. You passed. Look, about that deal, you have to help me. They pulled the funding. I'm ruined, Bruce. We're family. Family. The word tasted like ash. I blocked the number. Update 2. The desperation. 1 week later. It's been a week. The story hasn't died down. It's gotten worse for them. Because this is New York and circles are small. Everyone knows. Lisa has been effectively blacklisted from the serious dating pool. The video of her dumping a secret multimillionaire is now a cautionary tale in every bar in the financial district. Men don't want to date the girl who couldn't spot quality if it hit her in the face. She's radioactive. She tried to ambush me at my office. She didn't know where my office was, so she went to the old address listed on a shell company I used for mail. It's a UPS store. She stood outside a UPS store for 3 hours in heels. I finally sent her an email, not a text, an email. Lisa, please stop. It's over. You made your choice publicly. I accepted it publicly. There is nothing to discuss. She replied with a novel, pages of excuses, how she was protecting me from her dad, how she pushed me away because she was scared of how much she loved me. The wildest part, she sent me a Venmo request for $5,000. The note said, for the therapy I need because of how you traumatized me by lying. I declined it. I also heard from mutual friends that Trent dumped her the next day. Apparently, he didn't want to be associated with the girl who fumbled the bag. Irony is a cruel mistress. Update 3, the meeting, yesterday. I ran into them. It was inevitable. I was at Le Coucou for a business dinner. I was wearing a suit that cost more than my first apartment, Tom Ford, tailored to the millimeter. I walked in, and there they were, Lisa and Carl, sitting at a corner table. They looked diminished. Carl looked grayer, smaller. Lisa looked tired, her sparkle gone. They saw me. The color drained from Carl's face. Lisa half rose from her chair, a smile plastering onto her face like a reflex. Bruce, she called out too loud. Over here. I stopped. My dinner partner, a ruthlessly efficient lawyer named Sarah, who knows the whole story and thinks it's hilarious, paused with me. I walked over. I didn't smile. Bruce, Lisa said, breathless. She reached for my hand. I kept my hands in my pockets. You look incredible. We miss you. The dog misses you. The dog I walked while you sat on your phone? I asked. Stop it, she laughed nervously, looking around to see if anyone was watching. Sit down. Let's have a drink. Dad wants to apologize. Carl looked up. He looked like a beaten dog. Bruce, I didn't know. If I had known... That's the point, Carl, I interrupted. You treated me like trash because you thought I was poor. If you had treated me with respect when I was nobody, we'd be having a very different conversation right now. You showed me who you are. Believe me, I saw it. I can change, Lisa whispered, tears forming in her eyes. I can be the woman you need. I was lost. Bruce, please. I looked at her. I realized I didn't feel angry anymore. I just felt nothing. She was a stranger, a pretty shallow stranger who valued a price tag over a person. Lisa, I said, you wanted a guy who fit your world. You got your wish. You're free to find him, but you don't get to backtrack just because you found out the poor guy owns the bank. I turned to leave. "Wait," she hissed, her mask slipping. "You owe me. I gave you a year of my life. I introduced you to everyone. You used me. You deceived me." "I loved you," I corrected her, looking her dead in the eye. "You used me as a placeholder, and now the seat is empty." I walked back to my table. Sarah looked at me and raised an eyebrow. "Feel better?" "Yeah," I said, exhaling a breath I felt like I'd been holding for a year. "Much better." We ordered the tasting menu. Final update. The aftermath. 1 month later. It's been a month since the helicopter ride. Carl filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy last week. Turns out, when you alienate the guy who can whisper in the ears of your creditors, things go south fast. He lost the Hamptons rental deposit too, because of damage to the lawn caused by unauthorized aircraft. I happily paid the fine for him. It was worth every penny. Lisa is currently taking a break from the city at her aunt's place in Connecticut. She deleted her Instagram after the comments became too brutal. The last time I heard about her, she was trying to date a 50-year-old car dealership owner who wears too much cologne. Me, I'm good. I bought a new car, an Aston Martin DB11. Not to show off, but because I've always wanted one, and I'm tired of pretending I don't. I still go to the dive bar in Queens for wings on Tuesdays. I still wear t-shirts, but last week I met someone. Her name is Elena. She's a pediatric nurse. We met at a bookstore. She dropped a stack of books, and I helped her pick them up. I asked her if she wanted coffee. She looked at my watch. I was wearing the cheap Casio again. She smiled. "Sure, but I'm buying. You look like a student." I didn't correct her. We sat and talked for 3 hours. She didn't ask what I did. She asked what I loved. She asked about my dog. She asked about my favorite books. I think I'm going to keep the Aston Martin in the garage for a while. It's nice to be Bruce again. And to anyone out there letting someone treat them like a placeholder, call the helicopter. Even if it's just a metaphorical one, leave. You're worth more than their perception of your wallet. And if you ever need a recommendation for a good shipping algorithm, well, you know who to call.